Hello and welcome to Calm Mind, a place where thoughts are allowed to slow down. You don't need to make anything happen or arrive anywhere. Right now, your only invitation is to be here. Just this. Just you. Just resting. Let your shoulders soften. Let your jaw release. Allow your eyelids to grow heavy in their own time. No rush. Let's close the door on the day together and begin. Tonight, I want to offer you something you might desperately need. Something simple but profound. Something that might feel impossible or even dangerous to accept. Permission to pause. Not at the end of everything. Not once you've reached your goals. Not after you've finished what you're working toward. Not when everything's resolved. Permission to pause right in the middle. Right where you are. Right in the messiness and incompleteness of life as it actually is. Because here's what nobody tells you. You don't have to wait until you've arrived to rest. You don't have to finish the race to catch your breath. You don't have to solve all your problems before you're allowed to pause. You can pause in the middle. And the middle is where most of life happens anyway. You might be waiting for the right time to rest. Waiting until things settle. Waiting until the pressure eases. Waiting until you reach some end point where pausing finally makes sense. But that end point keeps moving. Every time you get close, it shifts further away. You reach one goal and another appears. You solve one problem and another emerges. You finish one phase and another begins. Life doesn't have clear endpoints. It doesn't pause for you at designated rest stops. It keeps unfolding, keeps demanding, keeps moving forward. And if you're waiting for life to give you permission to pause, you'll be waiting forever. Because life doesn't work that way. Life is continuous, ongoing, always in the middle. So the only way to rest is to pause mid-journey. To stop even though things aren't finished. To rest even though there's more ahead. To allow yourself this moment of stillness even though the path continues. If these gentle journeys are meaningful to you, I invite you to like, subscribe, or share a reflection below. It helps other restless minds find their way here. But for now, your only task is to relax. Tonight is practice in this. Practice in pausing before everything's resolved. Practice in resting while life is still unfolding. Practice in stopping mid-sentence, mid-chapter, mid-journey. You might be lying here carrying an enormous weight, the weight of everything that's unfinished, everything that's unresolved, everything that's pressing on you. Work that's not complete, relationships that need attention, problems that need solving, decisions that need making, responsibilities that never pause. And you might feel like you can't put this weight down, like pausing means dropping everything, like resting means letting everyone down, like stopping means failure. But that's not what pause means. Pause doesn't mean abandoning your responsibilities. Pause doesn't mean giving up on what matters. Pause doesn't mean everything falls apart. Pause means, I'm still here. I'm still committed. I'm still caring. But right now, in this moment, I'm allowing myself to stop moving forward, to be still, to rest. The weight will still be there tomorrow, but tonight, you can pause. You can set it down temporarily. You can give yourself this space to breathe. Maybe no one has ever told you this explicitly. You are allowed to pause, in the middle, before things are done, while life is messy and incomplete. You don't need to earn this permission. You don't need to wait for the right moment. You don't need anyone else's approval. Life doesn't need to be resolved tonight. Your problems don't need to be solved by morning. The decisions you're facing can wait. The work you're doing can pause. This is permission without conditions. Permission without consequences. Permission that says, you're human, and humans need to pause. And that need is legitimate simply because it exists. So let me say it clearly. You are allowed to pause. Right now. Right here. In the middle of everything. While it's all still unfinished. You are allowed to stop. You are allowed to rest. You are allowed to be still. Even though there's more to do. Even though it's not over. Even though life continues. This permission is yours. It's not something I'm giving you. It's something you already have. I'm just reminding you. Tonight is about learning to pause without guilt, to rest without feeling like you're failing, to stop without believing you're letting everyone down. We're going to explore why pausing feels so dangerous, We're going to examine the pressure to keep going no matter what. We're going to discover what pause actually means. We're going to practice pausing, really pausing, deeply pausing. We're going to learn what it means to live from a place that includes pause, not just constant motion. And we're going to rest, deeply rest, in the middle of your life, in the middle of everything that's unresolved, in the middle of all that's still unfolding. Because this is where you are, in the middle. And the middle is exactly where pause is most needed, most valuable, most life-giving. So let's begin right here. Let yourself settle into this bed, into this moment, into this pause you're allowing yourself. Feel the surface beneath you holding your full weight. You don't have to hold yourself up right now. You can let go. You can be held. Notice your breath, the natural rhythm of it. Breathing in, breathing out, without effort, without trying. Your body knows how to breathe. It knows how to rest. And notice your mind. If it's racing, if it's worried, if it's listing all the reasons you shouldn't be pausing right now, just notice that. Don't fight it. Just see it. This resistance is normal. You've been trained to keep going, to never stop, to view pause as failure. So of course your mind resists. But underneath the resistance is exhaustion. And underneath the exhaustion is a deep need. A need to pause, to stop, to rest. Tonight we honor that need. Tonight we practice saying yes to pause. Yes to stopping in the middle. Yes to resting while life is still unfinished. You are allowed. You are allowed. You are allowed to pause. Let's start by understanding the pressure, the force that keeps you moving even when you desperately need to stop. There's a particular kind of pressure that comes from momentum. Once you're in motion, staying in motion feels easier than stopping. You've been going for days, weeks, months, maybe years. And the momentum of that movement has its own force. Its own logic that says, keep going, don't stop, don't break the streak. In physics, this is Newton's first law. An object in motion tends to stay in motion. And you're that object. You've been set in motion by circumstances, by ambitions, by responsibilities, and now you just keep moving. Stopping feels harder than continuing, because stopping requires making a decision. Stopping requires deliberate choice. But continuing is automatic. You just keep going. And somewhere in this momentum, you lost touch with why you're moving. You're not going toward anything specific anymore. You're just going because you've been going. Because stopping feels impossible. But momentum isn't sustainable forever. Eventually, everything in motion exhausts its fuel. Eventually, the body forces what the mind won't choose. Eventually, you stop, but by then it's collapse, not rest. Tonight is about choosing to stop before collapse, about deliberately interrupting the momentum, about saying, I see that I'm in motion, and I'm choosing to pause. Another pressure, the fear that if you pause, even briefly, you'll fall behind. Everyone else will keep going while you're stopped, and you'll lose ground you can never make up. This fear is particularly strong in competitive environments, in cultures that equate worth with productivity, in systems where advancement requires constant visibility and availability. You see others who seem to never stop, who seem to have endless energy, who seem to effortlessly maintain the pace. And you think, if I pause, I'll prove I'm weaker, less capable, not good enough. But here's what's actually true. The people who sustain over the long term aren't the ones who never pause. They're the ones who pause strategically, who understand that rest maintains capacity, who know that pausing prevents burnout. Research on high performers across every field shows this consistently. Peak performance requires oscillation, periods of intense effort followed by periods of recovery. It's not constant effort, it's rhythmic effort. So pausing doesn't make you fall behind. Pausing is how you maintain the capacity to keep up. Never pausing is what makes you fall behind, because you're operating at a fraction of your potential due to exhaustion. But the fear persists, because in the moment, pause feels like retreat, feels like weakness, feels like you're giving others an advantage. Tonight we practice questioning that fear. Practice recognizing that pause is strategic, not weak. That stopping is wise, not failing. There's also the catastrophizing mind, The one that says, "But what if I pause and something terrible happens? What if someone needs me and I'm not available? What if an opportunity comes and I miss it? What if a crisis occurs and I'm not there to handle it?" This is your nervous system's threat detection system being overly sensitive. It's trying to keep you safe by keeping you constantly vigilant, constantly available, constantly ready. But this constant readiness is exhausting, and the threats it's watching for are often exaggerated or imaginary. Most of what your catastrophizing mind worries about doesn't actually happen. And even when real challenges do arise, your ability to handle them depends on your resources. And your resources depend on rest. So pausing actually prepares you to handle difficulties better. The ancient Stoic philosopher Seneca wrote, "We suffer more in imagination than in reality." Your catastrophizing about what might happen if you pause is likely worse than what would actually happen. Most of the time, pausing has no dire consequences. The world continues. People manage. Things work out. And you return restored, more capable, more present. So the catastrophizing mind, though it feels protective, is actually keeping you trapped. Trapped in motion. Trapped in exhaustion. Trapped in a life without pause. For some people, the pressure to keep going is bound up with identity. You're the person who never stops. The reliable one. The one who's always available. The one who gets things done. This identity has brought you recognition, praise, a sense of being valuable. You're so dedicated. I don't know how you do it. You never let anyone down. And now, pausing threatens that identity. If you stop, even briefly, who are you? If you're not the tireless one, what makes you special? What makes you worthy? But this identity is costing you. It's requiring you to deny your humanity, to override your limits, to sacrifice your well-being for external validation. And the truth is, you don't have to be tireless to be valuable. You don't have to be constantly available to be worthy. You don't have to deny your need for pause to deserve love and respect. You can be valuable and rest. You can be reliable and have boundaries. You can be dedicated and honor your limits. Pausing doesn't erase your worth. It affirms it. It says, I matter enough to care for. My well-being is important enough to protect. I'm valuable whether I'm in motion or at rest. Let's be honest about what happens when you never pause. When you just keep going and going and going. Your body breaks down. Chronic stress keeps your cortisol elevated, your immune system suppressed, your inflammation high. You get sick more often. You age faster. You develop stress-related conditions. Your mind deteriorates. Cognitive function requires rest to maintain. Without it, you become forgetful, scattered, unable to focus. Decision-making suffers. Creativity dies. You're thinking through fog. Your relationships suffer. When you're exhausted, you have nothing left for connection. You're irritable, distant, going through the motions. The people you love get a depleted version of you. Your effectiveness plummets. Exhausted work is poor work. You're putting in more hours but producing less quality. You're making mistakes, missing things, operating at a fraction of your capacity. And your spirit withers. The part of you that feels joy, that experiences meaning, that connects with beauty, that part needs space to breathe. And constant motion suffocates it. So the consequence of never pausing isn't that you accomplish more. It's that you accomplish less, with greater cost, until eventually you can't continue. Pause is not a luxury. Pause is maintenance. It's how you prevent the breakdown that comes from constant motion. So right now, notice what pressure you feel. What's keeping you in motion even when you need to stop? Is it momentum? Is it fear of falling behind? Is it catastrophizing? Is it identity? Is it something else entirely? Just notice it. Don't judge it. Don't try to fix it. Just see it clearly. This is the pressure you're under. This is what makes pausing feel impossible. And as you notice it, recognize, this pressure is real. It's not imaginary. You're not weak for feeling it. You're human. And humans respond to pressure. But you also have choice. You can be under pressure and still choose to pause. You can feel the force of momentum and still choose to stop. You can acknowledge the fears and still allow yourself rest. The pressure doesn't have to control you. It's information. It's conditioning. It's learned. And you can respond to it differently than you have been. Tonight you're practicing a different response. You're practicing pause despite the pressure. You're practicing rest even while the force to keep going is present. This is courage, real courage, the courage to stop in the middle, to rest when everything says you should keep moving. Now let's go deeper. Let's understand why pause doesn't just feel difficult. It feels dangerous, threatening, like something to avoid. Much of your resistance to pausing comes from survival programming. Deep programming that says, keep moving or you'll die. This might sound dramatic, but it's not metaphor. For your ancestors, stopping genuinely could mean death. A predator could attack. Resources could run out. The tribe could leave you behind. So the nervous system evolved to prioritize motion, to feel safe in activity and unsafe in stillness, to equate pause with vulnerability. And even though your environment has changed, you're not being chased by predators, you're not at risk of starvation if you rest for a night. Your nervous system hasn't updated the software. It still sends danger signals when you try to pause, still creates anxiety when you stop moving, still tells you that rest equals risk. This is your amygdala, the brain's threat detection center, doing its job. It's trying to protect you using ancient programming. It doesn't understand that in your current life, not pausing is the greater danger. So when you feel anxious about pausing, when your body resists rest, when stopping feels threatening, you're not being irrational. You're responding to deep biological programming. But you can recognize this programming and choose differently. You can thank your nervous system for trying to protect you and still allow yourself to pause. Beyond biological programming, you've likely learned to associate pausing with danger through specific experiences. Maybe you grew up in chaos where letting your guard down meant getting hurt, where being still meant being vulnerable, where rest was when bad things happened. So you learned, stay vigilant, stay in motion, stay ready, because pausing equals danger. Or maybe you were punished for pausing, for being lazy, for not being productive, for taking time for yourself. And you learned, pause brings consequences, pain, disapproval, shame. Or maybe you paused once and something did go wrong. You took a break and missed an opportunity. You rested and someone was disappointed. You stopped and things fell apart. And that one experience created a story. See what happens when I pause. This is why I can't stop. This is why I have to keep going. But one experience doesn't define all experiences. What happened once doesn't have to keep happening. The association between pause and danger isn't fixed truth, it's learned. And what's learned can be unlearned. Tonight is part of that unlearning. Tonight you pause and nothing terrible happens. Tonight you rest and you're still safe. Tonight you stop and the world doesn't end. Another reason pausing feels dangerous. You believe that your constant motion is what's keeping everything together. That if you stop controlling, managing, doing, everything will fall apart. This is what psychologists call an illusion of control. The belief that you have more influence over outcomes than you actually do. That your vigilance is what's preventing disaster. And this illusion feels protective. It feels like if you just stay in control, stay on top of everything, stay constantly active, you can prevent bad things from happening. But here's the hard truth. You're not controlling as much as you think. Many things are outside your control. And your constant effort to control everything is exhausting you without actually providing the security you're seeking. When you pause, when you let go of control temporarily, you often discover things continue. They don't fall apart. The world manages without your constant intervention. This can be frightening to realize. Because if things can continue without your constant control, what was all that effort for? Why have you been working so hard? But it can also be freeing, because it means you don't have to carry it all. You don't have to control everything. You can pause. You can rest, and life continues. Sometimes pausing feels dangerous because of what it might reveal, what you might feel or think or realize when you stop moving. Constant motion is an effective distraction. When you're always busy, always doing, always in motion, you don't have to face what's underneath. The feelings you're avoiding, the questions you're not ready to answer, the truths you don't want to see. And so pausing feels threatening because it removes the distraction. It creates space for what you've been out trying to catch up. Maybe you're avoiding grief, sadness about losses you haven't processed, and constant motion keeps the grief at bay, but pausing would let it surface. Maybe you're avoiding questions about meaning, about whether you're living the life you want to live, whether your current path is truly yours, and busyness prevents you from examining these questions. Maybe you're avoiding emptiness, the feeling that if you're not doing something, you're nothing, and pausing would force you to confront that belief. So the danger of pausing isn't external, it's internal. It's what might emerge in the stillness, what might demand attention in the quiet. But here's what's also true. Avoiding these things doesn't make them go away. They're still there, underneath, influencing you. Pausing just brings them into awareness where they can actually be addressed. For many people, pausing triggers intense guilt. And guilt is a form of psychological danger signal. It says, you're doing something wrong. You're hurting someone. You need to stop this and do something else. This guilt might say, while you're pausing, others are struggling. While you're resting, people need you. While you're stopping, work is piling up. You should be doing something, not lying here. And guilt is effective at preventing pause because it makes rest feel morally wrong. Not just unwise or risky, actually wrong, selfish, irresponsible, bad. But this guilt is often misplaced. It's based on distorted beliefs about your responsibility, about what you owe others, about the morality of self-care. The truth is, taking care of yourself is not selfish. Resting when you're exhausted is not irresponsible. Pausing to restore your capacity is not wrong. In fact, the opposite is true. Depleting yourself serves no one. When you're exhausted, you can't show up well for others. You can't do good work. You can't be present. You have nothing left to give. So pausing is how you maintain your capacity to contribute. It's how you ensure you have something to offer. It's responsible, not selfish. But guilt doesn't respond to logic. It's an emotional response, often learned in childhood, deeply conditioned. So even when you know intellectually that pause is okay, the guilt can still arise. Tonight we practice pausing despite the guilt. allowing it to be there without letting it control you, resting even while guilt says you shouldn't. Your brain has learned to categorize pause as risk, but actually, the risk-reward calculation is backwards. The real risk is never pausing. That's what leads to breakdown, to burnout, to deteriorating health, to relationship damage, to lost effectiveness. Pause is reward. It's what prevents these outcomes. It's what restores you. It's what makes continued engagement possible. But because your nervous system and your conditioning have taught you otherwise, you experience it backwards. You feel danger when you pause and safety when you keep going. So part of tonight's work is beginning to retrain this response, beginning to help your system recognize pause is safe, pause is beneficial, pause is what actually protects me. This retraining doesn't happen overnight. It's gradual. It requires repeated experiences of pausing and discovering you're okay. That nothing terrible happened. That you're actually better for having rested. Tonight is one of those experiences. One data point in the retraining. You pause, and you're safe. You rest, and you're okay. You stop, and nothing catastrophic occurs. Slowly, with enough of these experiences, your system begins to update, begins to recognize pause as safe, begins to categorize it correctly as reward, not risk. Now let's explore what pause actually is, because you might have distorted ideas about what pausing means, and those distortions make it harder to allow. First and most importantly, pause is temporary. It's not permanent withdrawal. It's not quitting. It's not the end of engagement. Pause is like a comma, not a period. It's a break in the flow, not a stopping of the flow. It's rest between efforts, not the ending of effort. When you press pause on a video, the video doesn't disappear. It doesn't erase. It just stops moving forward temporarily. And when you're ready, you press play and it continues exactly where it left off. Your life is like this. When you pause, your life doesn't end. Your responsibilities don't evaporate. Your commitments don't dissolve. They're just held temporarily while you rest. And when you resume, which you will, things will still be there, waiting, ready to continue. This is crucial to understand because part of why pausing feels dangerous is the fear that it's permanent. That if you stop, you won't be able to start again. That pause equals giving up. But pause is not giving up. Pause is rest before resuming. It's gathering strength for the next phase. It's strategic withdrawal that enables strategic return. So when you pause tonight, know this is temporary. Tomorrow you'll engage again. You'll pick back up. You'll continue. This is rest, not retirement. Another misconception: that pause is passive, that it's doing nothing, that it's empty. But pause is deeply active. When you pause, crucial processes happen: restoration, integration, consolidation, healing. Your body actively repairs during rest. Growth hormone is released. Tissue rebuilds. The immune system does its work. Inflammation reduces. Cells regenerate. Your brain actively processes during rest. Memories consolidate. Learning integrates. Neural connections strengthen. The glymphatic system clears waste. Insights emerge. Your nervous system actively recalibrates during rest. Stress hormones normalize. The parasympathetic system engages. Heart rate variability improves. You return to baseline. So pause is not nothing. Pause is when the doing work converts into being better. When the effort you've made integrates into growth. When the experiences you've had become wisdom. Musicians know this. You don't learn the piece by practicing continuously for 8 hours. You learn it through practice sessions with rest between. The rest is when the learning consolidates, when muscle memory forms, when understanding deepens. The same is true for all development. You don't grow through constant effort. You grow through alternating effort and rest. The effort creates the stimulus. The rest creates the adaptation. Pause is also boundary. It's saying, this far and no further right now. I've given what I can give. I've done what I can do. Now I stop. And healthy boundaries are essential for well-being. They're how you protect your resources, how you prevent depletion, how you maintain your capacity to engage over time. Without boundaries, you become diffuse. Everyone can access you. Everything can demand you. You have no protected space, no preserved energy, no sustainable limits. Pause creates boundary around your energy, your time, your attention. It says, during this period, I'm not available for demands. I'm not taking on more. I'm restoring. And this boundary serves others as much as it serves you. Because when you return from pause, you return resourced. You have capacity. You can genuinely give, genuinely engage, genuinely show up. But when you never pause, when you never create boundary, you're always operating on depleted resources. And what you give from depletion isn't your best. It's just what's left over. The dregs. So pause is how you love others well. It's how you maintain the capacity to care. It's how you ensure that when you engage, you're truly present. Pausing requires trust. Trust that the world will continue without your constant intervention. Trust that others will handle things. Trust that you can stop without everything falling apart. And for many people, this trust is difficult, because past experience has taught them otherwise, has taught them that they're the only one who can be relied on, that if they don't do it, it won't get done, that their vigilance is essential. But holding this belief is exhausting, and it's usually not entirely accurate. You're important, yes, but you're not the only thing holding everything together. When you pause, you discover what's actually true. You discover what really requires your involvement and what doesn't. You discover who else is capable. You discover that the world has more resources than just you. And this can be both relieving and humbling. Relieving because it means you don't have to carry it all. Humbling because it means you're not as indispensable as you thought. But ultimately, this trust is freeing, because it means you can pause, you can rest, and life continues. Others step up. Things work out. You're not the only thing standing between order and chaos. So pausing is practice in trust, practice in letting go of control, practice in allowing life to unfold even when you're not actively managing every detail. When you're constantly in motion, you lose perspective. You're too close to see clearly, too caught up in the doing to reflect on what you're doing or why. Pause creates distance, creates space to step back and see the bigger picture. To ask, is this the right direction? Is this how I want to be spending my life? Is this aligned with what actually matters to me? Without pause, you can spend years moving in a direction you never consciously chose, just following momentum, just doing what you've always done, just responding to the next demand without ever asking if this is the life you want. But pause interrupts that automaticity. It creates a moment of consciousness, a moment where you can evaluate, reflect, choose deliberately rather than just continue automatically. The Vietnamese Buddhist teacher Thich Nhat Hanh teaches about stopping. The practice of stopping, of calming, of resting is crucial. If we cannot stop, the dance of life will make us ill. The quality of your smile depends on it. Pause is how you ensure that your life is actually yours, that you're living deliberately, not just reactively, that you're choosing your direction, not just being carried by momentum. So when you pause tonight, you're not just resting your body, you're creating space for perspective, for clarity, for conscious choice about how you want to continue. Finally, pause is permission. Permission to be human. Permission to have limits. Permission to need rest. You don't have to be superhuman to be valuable. You don't have to be tireless to be worthy. You don't have to override your needs to deserve care. Pause is the practice of extending to yourself the same compassion you'd extend to anyone else. If someone you cared about was exhausted, you'd encourage them to rest. You wouldn't call them weak or lazy. You'd recognize their need as legitimate. So why withhold that same recognition from yourself? Why hold yourself to standards you'd never apply to others? Pausing is saying, I matter too. My needs count too. I'm worthy of care too. Not someday, not later, but right now. In the middle. As I am. This permission isn't something you have to earn. It's not conditional on having accomplished enough or suffered enough or tried hard enough. It's inherent. It comes with being human. So receive it. Allow it. Let yourself have this pause. Not because you've earned it, but because you need it. And that's enough. Permission to pause requires the capacity to say no. And for many people, No is the hardest word. You might be able to recognize theoretically that you're allowed to pause. But when someone asks for your time, your energy, your availability, can you actually say no? Because pause isn't just about lying in bed at night. Pause is about creating space in your life. And creating space requires saying no to some things so you can say yes to rest. But no feels dangerous. No feels selfish. No feels like letting people down. So you say yes when you mean no. You say yes when you're depleted. You say yes when you have nothing left to give. And then you wonder why you can't pause. Why you're always overwhelmed. Why rest feels impossible. It's because you've said yes to everything, leaving no space for pause. Every yes costs something. It costs time. It costs energy. It costs attention. When you say yes to everything, you're spending resources you don't have. And the cost of chronic yes isn't just exhaustion. It's resentment. When you say yes but mean no, when you give beyond your capacity, resentment builds. You resent the people asking. You resent yourself for not having boundaries. You resent the situation that seems to demand more than you can give. And you lose yourself in the process. Because when you're always saying yes to others' needs, when are you saying yes to your own? When are you honoring your need for pause? The people pleaser believes that saying yes maintains relationships. That saying no will damage connection. That being available means being loved. But actually, chronic yes damages relationships more than occasional no. Because when you give from depletion, you're not giving your best. You're giving resentfully. You're giving without genuine presence. And people can feel that. Healthy relationships can handle no. Healthy relationships want you to have boundaries. Healthy relationships understand that your yes is more meaningful when you also have the freedom to say no. Saying no is an act of self-respect. It's saying, my needs matter too. My capacity has limits. My resources are finite and worth protecting. When you say no to a request that would deplete you, you're not being selfish. You're being realistic. You're acknowledging that you can't give what you don't have. And you're honoring the person asking by not saying yes when you'll resent it. By not giving from a depleted place where you can't show up well. Think of it this way. When you're on an airplane, they tell you to put your own oxygen mask on before helping others. Not because you're more important, but because you can't help anyone if you're unconscious. No is your oxygen mask. It's how you ensure you have resources to actually help, to actually show up, to actually give from a genuine place. So no isn't selfish. No is sustainable. No is how you maintain the capacity to say yes when it really matters. If you struggle with no, start small. Start with low-stakes situations. Build the muscle. Someone asks if you want to do something you genuinely don't want to do. Practice. No, thank you. That doesn't work for me. You don't have to explain. You don't have to justify. You don't have to make it okay for them. You can just decline. Notice what happens. Notice the discomfort, the guilt, the worry that they'll be upset. And notice you survive it. The discomfort passes, and you have the space you protected. As you practice, no becomes easier. The guilt lessens. You develop trust that boundaries are okay. That people can handle your no. That protecting your capacity is responsible. And eventually, no becomes an expression of self-care. Not something you do reluctantly, but something you do knowing it's necessary. Knowing it's how you maintain space for pause. When you have the capacity to say no, your yes becomes more meaningful, because it's chosen, it's genuine, it's coming from resource, not obligation. You can say yes to what truly matters. Yes to what you have capacity for. Yes to what aligns with your values and energy, because you've said no to everything else. This is discernment. This is wisdom. This is knowing what deserves your finite resources and what doesn't. And this is how you create space for pause, by saying no to demands that would consume the space, by protecting time for rest, by honoring that pause is as important as activity. So right now, if there's something you need to say no to, some demand you've been carrying that's preventing pause, practice releasing it. Even just mentally. Even just for tonight. No, I can't carry that right now. No. That's not mine to hold tonight. No, I need this space for pause. Feel what happens when you say no. when you claim space, when you protect your capacity for rest. This is sacred. This this boundary, this protection of your need for pause. This is how you make room for the rest you desperately need. Now we move from understanding to practice, because knowing about pause intellectually is different from actually pausing. Let's practice together. First, just notice the resistance that's present. Don't try to make it go away. Don't fight it. Just see it. What's your mind saying right now? Is it listing all the things you should be doing? Is it creating anxiety about what might happen if you rest? Is it generating guilt about taking this time? Notice without judgment. This resistance is natural. You've been conditioned to resist pause. Your nervous system is doing what it's been trained to do. But you don't have to obey the resistance. You can notice it, acknowledge it, and still choose to pause. You can let it be there, like background noise, while you practice something different. So right now, silently acknowledge, I notice resistance. I feel pressure to keep going, and I'm choosing to pause anyway. Feel what happens when you make that choice. When you recognize the resistance and pause despite it. There might be anxiety, there might be guilt, and also there might be relief. Let's practice pausing in your body, because pause isn't just mental, it's physical. Notice any tension in your body, any holding, any gripping. This is your body staying in motion even while lying still. Your shoulders might be raised. Your jaw might be clenched. Your hands might be in fists. Your belly might be tight. This is the body refusing to pause. So let's deliberately pause. Let's give your body permission to stop holding. Start with your shoulders. Notice if they're raised toward your ears. If they are, deliberately let them drop. Not forcing, just releasing, letting gravity take them. Now your jaw. If it's clenched, let your teeth part slightly. Let your jaw hang loose. Let your tongue rest softly in your mouth. Your hands. If they're in fists, let your fingers open. Let your palms relax. Let your hands be soft, loose, at rest. Your belly. If it's tight, let it soften. You don't have to hold it in right now. Let it be soft, round, loose. Feel the difference between holding and releasing, between motion and pause. This is what physical pause feels like. This softening, this letting go. Now let's practice pausing in your breath, because breath is constant motion, and learning to find pause within breath is profound. Notice your breathing. Don't change it. Just observe it. The rhythm of it. In and out. Continuous cycle. But within each cycle, there are natural pauses. At the top of the inhale, before the exhale begins, there's a moment of stillness. At the bottom of the exhale, before the next inhale, there's a moment of rest. Most of the time, you rush through these pauses. You breathe in and immediately breathe out. You breathe out and immediately breathe in. No space between. But what if you let yourself linger in the pause, just for a moment, just to feel what it's like to be between breaths, to be in the stillness between motion. Try it now. Breathe in naturally, and at the top of the inhale, before you exhale, pause, just for a second or two. Feel the stillness, the suspension. Then exhale naturally, and at the bottom of the exhale, before you inhale, pause again. Feel the emptiness, the quiet. This is micropause, the pause that exists within every breath, the reminder that pause is always available, always present, even in the midst of constant cycles. Now let's practice pausing thought. This is harder because thoughts feel automatic, but there's space between thoughts too. Notice your thoughts. They're probably flowing, one after another, a stream of mental activity. But occasionally, between thoughts, there's a gap, a moment where one thought has ended and the next hasn't started, a brief space of mental silence. Usually you don't notice these gaps because they're so brief, and because your mind immediately fills them with the next thought. But what if you could expand the gap? What if you could rest in the space between thoughts, even briefly? Try this. Let a thought arise. Notice it. Watch it pass. And before the next thought comes, rest in that space. That gap. That pause. It might be just a second. That's okay. You're not trying to stop thinking forever. You're just practicing noticing the pause that already exists between thoughts. This gap is where peace lives, where rest lives. It's always there, underneath the constant stream of thinking, and you can learn to access it. You can also practice pausing reactivity, pausing the automatic emotional responses that keep you in motion. Something triggers you, a thought, a memory, a worry, and immediately you react. You might feel anxiety, guilt, frustration, and these feelings create urgency. They make you want to do something, to fix, to solve, to act. But you can pause between trigger and reaction. You can notice, I'm feeling triggered, and I'm choosing not to react immediately. This is what Viktor Frankl meant when he wrote, "Between stimulus and response there is a space. In that space is our power to choose our response. In our response lies our growth and our freedom." Right now, if there's something triggering you, some thought or feeling creating pressure, practice pausing. Notice the trigger. Notice the urge to react, and pause before reacting. Let the feeling be there. You don't have to make it go away. Just don't immediately obey it. Don't let it propel you into motion. Pause. Feel it. Let it be. This pause creates choice. Without it, you're automatic. With it, you're free. Free to choose a different response. Free to rest instead of react. Part of practicing pause is releasing the timeline. Releasing the pressure of when things need to happen. Your mind might be holding a timeline. This needs to be done by tomorrow. That needs to be decided by next week. I should have accomplished this by now. I'm running out of time. But tonight, you can release that timeline. You can let go of when things are supposed to happen and just be here, now, paused. The timeline will resume tomorrow. You'll pick it back up. You'll re-engage with the when and the should. But for tonight, for these hours, you can let it go. Try saying to yourself, the timeline can pause. I don't need to know when right now. I can just be here, timeless, at rest. Feel what happens when you release the timeline. maybe relief, maybe anxiety, maybe both. Whatever arises, let it be. You're practicing something new. Discomfort is part of learning. Finally, practice trusting the pause. Trusting that pausing is okay. That nothing terrible will happen. That you'll be able to resume when it's time. This trust has to be learned through experience, through actually pausing and discovering you're okay. So right now, pause fully. Stop holding the future. Stop managing possibilities. Stop trying to control tomorrow. Just be here, in this pause, trusting. And notice, you're okay. You're breathing. You're safe. You're lying in bed. Nothing catastrophic is happening. The pause is holding you. Life is continuing. And you're at rest. This is the evidence your nervous system needs. The experience that teaches. Pause is safe. Pause is beneficial. Pause is allowed. Each time you practice this, the trust deepens. Each time you pause and nothing terrible happens, your system learns. And slowly, pause becomes easier, more natural, more accessible. Now we explore what it means to live from the pause, to integrate this practice into your life, to make pause not just something you do tonight, but something you embody. Most people treat pause as the exception, something you do when forced to, when you've collapsed, when you can't keep going anymore. But what if pause was the foundation? What if rest was primary and activity emerged from rest, rather than rest being a break from activity? This is how nature works. Seeds rest in soil before they grow. Ground lies fallow before it produces. Winter precedes spring. Rest is not the exception. It's the foundation from which growth emerges. And the same is true for you. You are nature. You follow the same principles. Rest is not deviation from your natural state. Rest is your foundation. Activity emerges from rest, is sustained by rest, returns to rest. When you organize your life around activity with occasional rest, you're fighting your nature. You're trying to be constantly spring, constantly harvest, never winter. But when you organize your life around rest with periods of activity, you're aligned. You're honoring the rhythm that sustains all living things. This is a radical reframe. It means your default state is rest, and activity is what you consciously choose to engage in for periods before returning to rest. So you're not trying to squeeze in moments of rest between all your activities. You're resting deeply, foundationally, and from that rest, you choose what activities to engage in. Living from the pause means living rhythmically, understanding that life moves in cycles, not straight lines, that there are natural rhythms of effort and rest. Your body knows this. You have circadian rhythms, 24-hour cycles of energy and fatigue. You have ultradian rhythms, 90 to 120-minute cycles of focus and diffusion throughout the day. But modern life ignores these rhythms. It demands constant availability, constant productivity, constant engagement regardless of your body's natural cycles. Living from the pause means honoring the rhythms. It means working with your energy, not against it. It means pausing when your body signals rest time, not overriding that signal because the clock says you should keep working. This is what indigenous cultures understood. They lived by seasons, by the sun, by natural rhythms of activity and rest. And they were sustainable in a way modern culture is not. You can't control the demands placed on you, but you can become aware of your rhythms, and you can find ways to honor them, even within constraints. Small pauses throughout the day. Seasonal variations in intensity, cycles of greater and lesser engagement. When you live rhythmically, pause becomes natural. It's not something you force or feel guilty about. It's just the rest phase of the cycle. As natural as breathing out after breathing in. Living from the pause means making pause a regular practice, not something that only happens when you're forced to by exhaustion or illness. Just like physical exercise, pause requires regular practice to be effective. Occasional, desperate rest doesn't build the capacity for sustainable living. But daily pause, even brief, trains your nervous system, teaches your body that pause is safe and available. Builds the skill of transitioning from motion to stillness. This might be 10 minutes of meditation, or a walk without your phone, or lying down in the afternoon, or creating buffer space between activities. Whatever form works for you. The key is consistency, regular practice, so that pause becomes familiar, so your system knows, this is something we do, this is safe, this is allowed. And as you practice, pause becomes easier. The resistance lessens. The guilt reduces. The anxiety about stopping diminishes. Because you have repeated evidence that pause is beneficial, not dangerous. Tonight is one iteration of this practice, but the practice continues tomorrow, and the day after. Small pauses, regular pauses, pauses that train your system and build the capacity to live differently. When pause is integrated into your life, it doesn't just prevent collapse, it actually enhances your capacity. Research on productivity and creativity shows that people who take regular breaks perform better than those who work continuously. Not just longer, better, higher quality work, more creative solutions, greater insight. This is because pause is when integration happens, when connections form, when understanding deepens, when creativity incubates. The ancient Greek mathematician Archimedes made his greatest discovery while taking a bath, not while working on the problem, while pausing. Countless breakthrough insights happen during pause, during walks, during showers, during rest. Because pause creates the mental space for new connections to emerge. So when you live from the pause, you're not sacrificing productivity for well-being. You're discovering that they're not opposed. That pause enhances both. That rest makes you more effective, not less. This removes the either-or. You don't have to choose between accomplishing things and taking care of yourself. Pause allows both. Sustainable accomplishment requires integrated rest. Living from the pause also transforms how you relate to others. Because when you're chronically in motion, you have no capacity for true presence. But when you're regularly rested, when you live from a foundation of pause, you can actually be with people. Not just physically present while mentally elsewhere. Actually there. Actually available. Actually connected. This is what others need from you. Not your exhausted presence. Not your depleted availability. Your actual, resourced, capable of connecting presence. And that presence only exists when you've paused enough to have space for others. When you're not so full of your own doing that there's no room for anyone else. So pause is how you love others well. How you maintain the capacity for relationship. How you ensure that when you show up, you're really showing up. And it's also how you model health for others. When people see you honoring pause, they receive permission to do the same. When you demonstrate that pause is compatible with productivity and care, others learn it's possible. You can be productive and rest. You can care deeply and have boundaries. You can be dedicated and honor your need for pause. And by embodying this, you give others permission to try. One fear that keeps people from pausing is the fear of resuming. What if I pause and can't start again? What if I lose momentum permanently? What if the pause never ends? This is a legitimate concern, especially if you've experienced depression or burnout where stopping felt permanent, where rest turned into inability to engage. But there's a difference between the pause you're practicing tonight and the collapse of burnout. One is chosen. One is forced. One restores. One results from too long without restoration. When you pause before you collapse, when you rest while you still have some resource, the pause refreshes. And resuming is natural, easy, even, because you're restored. But when you push until collapse, when you deplete completely, resuming is hard. Because you're trying to start from empty. And engines don't run on empty. So the solution to the fear of not being able to resume is not to never pause. It's to pause before depletion. To rest while you still have something to return from. Think of it like sleep. You go to sleep at night, and you wake up in the morning. You don't lie there thinking, what if I sleep forever? What if I can't wake up? You trust the cycle. Sleep, wake, rest, engage, pause, resume. This is natural rhythm. Your body knows how to do this. Another fear. What if I lose my drive? What if pausing makes me not want to continue? What if I discover I don't actually care about what I've been doing? This fear suggests that you're only continuing through force, through overriding your actual desires. And if you pause long enough to hear yourself, you'll realize you don't want this life. And here's the thing, If that's true, it's important information. If the only way you can continue is by never pausing to check in with yourself, something needs attention. But more often, what happens when you pause is not that you lose all desire. It's that you reconnect with authentic desire, with what you actually care about, beneath the shoulds and obligations. And from that authentic place, you re-engage, not from depletion and force, but from genuine interest and care. And that engagement is more sustainable because it's actually yours. So trust that if you truly care about something, pausing won't erase that care. If your work matters to you, rest won't destroy that mattering. If you love someone, pause won't eliminate that love. What pause might do is help you distinguish between what you're doing from authentic care and what you're doing from obligation or conditioning. And that clarity is valuable. Resuming from pause is a skill, just like pausing, and it helps to be intentional about it. When you wake tomorrow, you don't have to immediately launch into full motion. You can ease back in, gradual re-engagement. Maybe you lie still for a few moments, feeling your body. Maybe you take a few conscious breaths. Maybe you set an intention for how you want to engage today. You're practicing the transition from pause to motion. Not abrupt, not forced, but deliberate, chosen, eased into. And throughout your day, you can practice this rhythm. Small pauses, followed by small resumptions. Microcycles of rest and engagement, building the capacity to move fluidly between states. Each time you practice, you train your nervous system. Pausing is safe. Resuming is possible. The cycle is trustworthy. I can stop and start. I can rest and engage. I can be both still and active. And slowly, the fear lessens, because you have repeated evidence that resuming works. That pause doesn't trap you, that you can trust the rhythm. Here's something subtle but important. You don't have to leave pause completely behind when you resume. You can carry the quality of pause into your activity. What I mean is, you can move through your day with an inner stillness, with a quality of spaciousness even while doing things. Active on the outside, peaceful on the inside. This is what contemplative traditions teach. The monks who practice meditation don't just sit on cushions. They wash dishes, sweep floors, prepare food, but they do it from a place of inner stillness. You can do the same. You can work, care for people, fulfill responsibilities, but do it from a place that remembers pause, that stays connected to rest even while active. This is presence. This is mindfulness. This is living from a different center, not from constant striving and tension, but from a ground of rest that remains even in motion. So when you resume tomorrow, see if you can carry some of tonight's quality with you, some of the permission, some of the spaciousness, some of the pause. Not so you're slow or ineffective, but so you're operating from rest, with rest, in relationship to rest. So you're never fully disconnected from the pause that restores you. Finally, what makes resuming easier is knowing you can pause again. This isn't your last chance at rest. It's one cycle in an ongoing rhythm. Tomorrow night, you can pause again, and the night after that, and whenever you need to. Pause is always available, always permitted, always an option. This removes the desperation, the sense that you have to get all your rest right now because you won't have another chance. The pressure that makes pause itself feel stressful. You can rest tonight knowing, if I need more rest tomorrow, I can have it. If I need to pause during the day, I can create that space. Rest is renewable. Pause is repeatable. And this trust, that pause is ongoing, not one time, makes both pausing and resuming easier. You can fully rest because you trust you can pause again. You can fully engage because you trust you can rest again. So as you drift towards sleep tonight, hold this knowing, you'll wake, you'll resume. You'll engage with tomorrow, and when you need to pause again, you can, and you will. The rhythm continues. Pause, resume, rest, engage, stop, start. This is the dance. This is the cycle. This is sustainable living. And you're learning the steps. You're training the rhythm. You're building the capacity to live this way, with pause integrated, with rest honored, with both stillness and motion available. Finally, understand this. Pause is not departure from life. Pause is return to yourself. When you're constantly in motion, you lose touch with yourself. You become a reaction machine, responding to demands, meeting expectations, fulfilling roles. But where are you in all that motion? Pause is where you find yourself again, where you reconnect with what actually matters to you, where you remember who you are beneath all the doing. The poet Rainer Maria Rilke wrote, "Perhaps all the dragons in our lives are princesses who are only waiting to see us act, just once, with beauty and courage. Perhaps everything that frightens us is, in its deepest essence, something helpless that wants our love." Pause is that beautiful and courageous act. It's choosing yourself, choosing presence, choosing to come home to who you actually are. And from that homecoming, from that grounded sense of self, your activity becomes authentic. You're not just doing things because you think you should. You're doing things that genuinely arise from who you are and what you care about. So pause is not escape from life. Pause is return to yourself. And from yourself, you engage with life more fully, more authentically, more sustainably. Tonight, as you rest, you're coming home, coming back to yourself, remembering who you are beneath all the motion. And this homecoming is what makes everything else possible. And so we arrive at rest, deep rest, in the middle of your life, in the middle of everything that's unfinished, in the pause. If these gentle journeys are meaningful to you, I invite you to like, subscribe, or share a reflection below. It helps other restless minds find their way here. But for now, just rest. Tonight, you've practiced something profound. You've allowed yourself to pause, in the middle, before everything's done, while life is still demanding. And nothing terrible happened. You paused, and you're okay. You stopped, and the world continued. You rested, and you're still safe. This is evidence. Evidence that pause is safe, that stopping is allowed, that rest is possible even when life is incomplete. Let this evidence settle into your system. Let your body remember. Pause was okay. Pause was beneficial. Pause was exactly what I needed. The permission you practice tonight doesn't end tonight. It's yours tomorrow too, and the day after, and every day. You are allowed to pause, in the middle, before you've finished, while things are messy and unresolved. This permission doesn't require perfect circumstances, doesn't require having accomplished enough, doesn't require external approval. It's inherent. It's yours because you're human, and humans need pause, and that need is legitimate. Tomorrow, you'll wake up. Life will continue. The demands will still be there. The responsibilities will remain. And you'll engage with them. You'll resume. You'll re-enter motion. Because pause is temporary. It's rest before continuing, not ending. But you'll engage from rest, from restoration, from a place that's been renewed by pause. And that makes all the difference. You won't be continuing from depletion. You'll be continuing from resource. You'll show up more capable, more present, more effective. Because that's what pause does. It restores your capacity. It renews your resources. It makes continued engagement sustainable. Let everything settle now. All the motion, all the pressure, all the demands. Let it all settle like dust in still water. Let it come to rest. Let yourself be completely, utterly at pause. Nothing needs to move right now. Nothing needs to be figured out. Nothing needs to happen. You can simply be. At pause. At rest. In the middle of everything. Completely allowed to stop. Feel your body sinking deeper into the bed. Feel your breath slowing, softening. Feel consciousness beginning to dissolve. This pause is safe. This rest is allowed. You are permitted to stop. Even in the middle. Even now. Pause. I'll see you soon. May your rest be deep. And your dreams be gentle.